Hello and welcome to today's lesson on Standard 2.2 in 8th grade. And then we're going to be looking also under the topics in the Study Island lesson, Order of Operations. And just remember, as you're going through these videos, you should be taking notes so that you have something to look at when you go and try these problems on your own, and so you have something to study from. And if I go too fast, just pause and rewind so that you can get caught back up in your notes. And then you can always pause at the beginning of the question, work the problem out yourself, and then watch the video so you can see what you're doing really well and see where your mistakes are so that you can learn from that also. And when we are looking at order of operations, there's one common mistake that everybody does is we learn the acronym PEMDAS, or Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, to memorize the order of operations. And we think, okay, well, M comes before D, so I always do multiplication before division. And A comes before S, so I always do addition before subtraction. When in fact, you do them at the same time. So when you do them left to right. So if division is at the beginning and multiplication is at the end, you would do the division first. You always do multiplication and division left to right like you read. Same with addition and subtraction. So just watch out for that. Don't fall prey to that easy mistake that everybody makes, and you're going to do great on these. So let's go ahead and look at some notes.
So we have a couple of ways to help us remember the order in which to do our operations. One way is an acronym, Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, and another way is just the word PEMDAS. So just pick one of those ways to remember and pick the one that sticks with you the best. But either way, the P stands for parentheses, 2 stands for exponents. Then you multiply and divide left to right, and then you add and subtract left to right. So this is going to help us keep everything straight when we're looking at examples. In this problem, I have 3/8 plus 4/8 times 2 to the 7th. Well, multiplication comes before addition, so I'm going to do this multiplication first. So when I multiply, you just multiply fractions tops with tops and bottoms with bottoms. So here 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 times 7 is 56. And then I have a 3 plus 8 out front. And so now in order to add these fractions, I need a common denominator. A common denominator here is 7, or is 56. So I'm going to have to multiply this first fraction, the top and the bottom, by 7. 3 times 7 is 21. 7 times 8 is 56. And then I have my common denominator, so I'm just going to add the tops. 21 plus 8 is 29. 56, and I can't reduce that, so that means my final answer here is going to be C. So in this problem, I have subtraction, multiplication, addition, and an exponent. So when I'm thinking of Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, I have parentheses first, which I don't have any, and then I have exponent, so that's what I'm going to do first. And when you're writing these down, just make sure that you're writing them line by line and doing each step separately and not trying to do too much in one step, or just not writing it down and trying to do a bunch in your head. That's not always going to go so smooth. So now I have subtraction, multiplication, and addition. And so the first thing I do there is multiplication. So 4.01 is going to be 0.4. And then I have subtraction and addition still. So remember, I do those left to right. So I'm going to do 8 minus 0.4 first, which is going to be 7.6. And then I'm going to add 4 to that, and that's going to be 11.6, which is going to make my final answer here, D. Alright, so I have our acronym to help us keep everything straight, which is going to be handy, and I keep that written down in my notes, because we're going to be getting into more and more things. So the first thing I do there is parentheses. So here I have a parentheses of 8 minus 6, which is going to be 2. I'm going to go ahead and write that down as 2 and keep everything else the same. Remember, when you're doing these, you want to go step by step. When you get better at them, you can start skipping steps if you want to. So next thing I'm going to do is exponents, because these parentheses here, there's no operation in them for me to do. It's just showing multiplication. So 4 squared is 16. 4 squared means 4 times itself, so it's going to be 4 times 4. And then the next thing I'm going to do is multiplication and division. And I can do them left or right, whatever comes first, whether it's division or multiplication. So here I have 20 times 2 is 40. And then I still that divide by 4. So I do 40 divided by 4 last, which is 10. It's going to have 16 minus 10, which is 6. And that's going to make my final answer D. So here I'm going to do parentheses first, which inside parentheses I have multiplication and exponents. I always do the exponents first. So I'm going to have 6 times 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. And when I take 6 times 125, that's going to be 750. So now I'm going to have 2 cubed minus 750, and that's still times 10 minus 22. So I have parentheses done. I'm going to go ahead and look for exponents. So here I have 2 cubed, which is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And everything else stays the same. Next is multiplication and division, left to right. So here I have multiplication. So 750 times 10 is 7,500. And that minus still stays out front there. And then I add and subtract left to right. So I'm going to have 8 minus 7,500, which is negative 700, 492 minus 22. And so there, I'm going to go ahead and do that subtraction, and that's going to leave a negative 7,514, which is going to make my final answer A. So here, I'm going to go ahead and follow my order of operations. First I have parentheses, and there's none of those. So the next I'm going to do exponents. So I have one of those, 6 squared. 6 squared is 6 times itself, which is 36. So this is going to be 88 divided by 8 plus 36 times 2 minus 5. So now that I have exponents done, I'm going to look at multiplication and division left to right. So whatever I hit first. So first I'm going to do 88 divided by 8, which is 11. I'm going to have 11 plus 36 times 2 minus 5. So I'm going to do multiplication next. 36 times 2 is 72. So this is going to be 11 plus 72 minus 5. Then 11 plus 72 is 83. And 83 minus 5 is 78, which is going to make my final answer D. So now I'm going to continue to follow order of operations. So I'm going to do parentheses first. So here 5 plus 1 is 6. So I'm going to have 3 times 4 squared plus 6 divided by 3. Minus 6. So I have exponents done, or I have parentheses done. I'm going to look at exponents. I have one of those, 4 squared, 4 times itself. 4 times 4 is 16. And then I'm going to want to multiply and divide left to right. So I have 3 times 16, which is 48, plus 6 divided by 3 minus 6. So I'm going to do this division next. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I'm going to have 48 plus 2 minus 6. And then I add and subtract left to right. 48 plus 2 is 50. Minus 6 is 44, which is going to make my final answer D. I'm going to continue to follow order of operations here. First, I'm going to look for parentheses, but number 7 doesn't have any. So then I'm going to look for exponents. I have one of those, so the whole problem stays the same except for that exponent. 0.3 squared, 0.3 times 0.3 or times itself is going to be 0.09 times 2 minus 4.14. So now I'm going to look at multiplication and division left to right. Well, the first multiplication or division I hit is 35 divided by 5, which is 7. So everything else stays the same. And then we're going to get doing it with division. So I have this, or multiplication now, because that's what's next. So I have 0.09 times 2, and that's going to be 7 plus 0.18 or 18 hundredths minus 4.14. And so now I'm going to go ahead and do addition and subtraction left to right. So this is going to be 7 and 18 hundredths minus 4 and 14 hundredths. And when I do that last subtraction, I'm left with 3 and 4 hundredths, which is going to make my final answer A. This last problem has lots of parentheses, which is what you do first. And so you always work with the innermost parentheses first. So here I'm going to do these inner parentheses, 4 plus 2, which is 6. And that 6 is still going to be squared, minus, and then here I have parentheses, but I have to do the exponents in the parentheses first, so it's going to be 9 plus 3. And then I can go ahead and finish those parentheses. 9 plus 3 is 12. So I'm going to have 6 squared minus 12 inside the brackets. Well, the brackets are a type of parentheses, so that's what I'm going to be doing next. And inside the parentheses, I'm going to do multiplication or exponents before subtraction. 6 squared or 6 times itself. 6 times 6 is 36. And then I'm going to finally finish out those brackets. And 36 minus 12 is 24. And then I have this part out front that I've just been bringing down along all the time. I have addition and multiplication left. I'm going to go ahead and do the multiplication first. 3 times 24 is 72. So I'm going to have 6 plus 72, which is equal to 78, which is going to make my final answer A. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new.